Welcome back to another champion deep dive, and today we're talking about Airwalker. He's got unblockable specials with a massive ability power rate that's even more massive while you heavy charge, and damage over time with the Dark Tide and armor breaks. And yeah, believe it or not, he's walking on air. First thing to note about Airwalker is his offensive combat power rate is decreased by 40%, meaning his actual attacks are netting you less power than a standard champion. But that's okay, because being a Herald of Galactus grants him the power cosmic. This is a persistent buff that can stack up to 3 times. For each stack, Airwalker gains 3.5% a bar of power every 1 second. You'll also gain increased armor rating and increased attack rating. Now, Airwalker will start the quest with 1 power cosmic buff, which persists between fights, and also gains 1 after he wins a fight. If Airwalker has no power cosmic buffs or it's been nullified, he'll gain 1 in 7.5 seconds. Now, Airwalker is unique in that you cannot reach your special 3 unless you have 3 power cosmic buffs active, or if he's defending. So, this means you must complete at least 2 fights before this happens. But don't worry, you'll be glad that you did. But more on this later. The Dark Tide is coming. The Dark Tide is a debuff that can be stacked up to 10 times. It reduces block proficiency while blocking special attacks, and it lasts indefinitely. However, opponents can remove 1 Dark Tide debuff every time they fill a bar of power, or whenever the power cosmic is nullified. Also, when Airwalker is power drained, locked, or power burned, he inflicts 3 Dark Tide debuffs on the opponent. And if an armor break is applied to the opponent while Dark Tide is active, they'll take direct damage every 0.5 seconds. This damage is equal to 2% of the opponent's base attack per Dark Tide. Now notice, I said opponent instead of Airwalker. There's a reason for that. You see, once 10 Dark Tide debuffs are inflicted on the opponent, they're combined into a passive. On attack, once placed, it now becomes a crossfight ability that lasts through the rest of the fight, even if Airwalker is knocked out. So, another champion on the team can take over and take advantage. On defense, the Dark Tide inflicts the opponent in the current fight and the next 2 fights they participate in, giving other opponents in the path access to the Dark Tide against you. Now, this passive counts as 10 Dark Tide debuffs, so you gain the maximum damage over time effects from armor break debuffs inflicted on the opponent. And if you end your combo with a light attack, it refreshes up to 2 stacks of that armor break. The Dark Tide passive also gains additional effects based on the opponent's class, but more on those later. Now, we talked about armor breaks and Dark Tides, but how do we apply them with Airwalker? Well, with special attacks, of course. Activating any special attack, armor breaks the opponent for 11 seconds. Now, if the last hit of your special attack isn't blocked, then you apply 1 Dark Tide debuff to the opponent, and an additional 1 for each buff on Airwalker. Further, if Airwalker is awakened, his signature ability applies a Dark Tide debuff on the opponent automatically over time, depending on your signature level. At max, it's 8 seconds, so this gives you another way to apply this debuff and get to the passive even faster. Alright, now for the special 1. The last hit has a 50% chance to inflict a stun debuff for 2 seconds. That chance is increased by a flat 50% if Airwalker is unblockable. But how would you be unblockable? Oh, you just wait. Now, the special 2 deals an extra 40% of the damage dealt as burst damage if the opponent is under a Dark Tide passive. And this plays right into the power cosmic as you gain attack for each stack that you have. Ooh, this Galactus backed Special 3 is packed to the gills. First, Airwalker replaces the Power Cosmic with the Power of Galactus for 20 seconds, granting increased attack, regen, 10.5% a bar of power every second, and a passive unstoppable effect. every attack has 100% chance to deal an additional burst of direct damage. The damage is equal to 5% of the damage dealt per Dark Tide on the opponent, which is a potential 50% of the damage you deal, but if you have a Dark Tide passive, you already got that. Now, after the power of Galactus expires, Airwalker's power is set to 0 when it ends, so use all the power you can while the buff is active, as it's a use it or lose it situation. Worry not though, your power cosmic buffs come right back into play. But is there a way to make these special attacks even more special? That's right, there is. Let's check it out. Now here's where everything gets more interesting. You see, while heavy attack charging, Airwalker's ability power rate is increased by 300%, and you can hold it down for an extended duration. However, you gotta make good on the charge or else you lose 75% of that over 0.75 seconds. Now, if you cancel into a special attack, Airwalker will gain a Fury buff during that special attack, increasing your attack rating. And that also applies to the damage increase you get from your special too. Also, if Airwalker fills a bar of power, he gains an unblockable buff for 1 second, and it's paused if you launch a special during that time, meaning all hits are unblockable. Now, let's see how this all fits together. Airwalker's rotation is all about getting 10 Dark Tide debuffs on the opponent as soon as possible to convert that into his passive. Here's where strategy comes into play. Your main way to gain power quickly is through heavy charging. So being crafty with how you charge up is essential because we want to cross a bar of power to gain an unblockable buff as well as a Fury buff at the same time. If you play your cards right, you can even fit in the precision buff from dexing an incoming attack. This works best when whiffing the first attack of the special one. This way your precision buff stays intact and only gets applied on that second hit. This way you'll get 5 Dark Tide debuffs applied right away, and that much closer to the 10 you need. From there, rinse and repeat to place the passive. Once you've got that in place, you want to concentrate on stacking those armor breaks and keeping them alive with your 4th light attack. This will help unlock your damage potential with each stack you place with the special attacks. Now keep in mind, each fight is more efficient until you reach your max potential at 3 power cosmic charges. At this point, you fill power bars very quickly. Also, having 3 power cosmic buffs active when you launch a special makes it easier to get to your Dark Tide passive. For shorter fights, you can concentrate on that special one and armor break refresh loop. Longer fights though, you can pepper in your special 3 for that regen and onslaught of increased attack and power gain. Now, a little pro tip. Using your parries just at the right time to allow you to charge past the bar of power is a great strategy, but you can also use this mid-combo, but you have to time your power combat and ability power gain just right to take advantage. This should be a swift and instant move, so the more cosmic buffs you have, the easier and the earlier you can do it. Just don't try this on the last hit of your combo. Circling back to how the Dark Tide passive affects each class, Tech Champions will find their duration and potency of Power Drain, Power Lock, and Power Burn effects reduced by 70%. Mutant Champions' offensive ability accuracy during special attacks are reduced by 33%, so attacks like Cyclops' SP1 will have 33% less chance to armor break, for example. Skill Champions won't land a critical attack as often because their critical rating is reduced based on rank and rarity of Airwalker. Science Champions' non-damaging debuffs have a negative 25% ability accuracy, so abilities like Parry will have a negative 25% chance to stun, or less a chance to apply an exhaustion debuff, for example. Cosmics will find their buff potency reduced by 50%. That's including things like Fury, Regen, Armor Up. They're going to be half as effective. Now that all being said, Mystic Champions resist the Dark Tide, so they're exempt from any effects. Taking Airwalker into time challenges like Bane, Brute Force, or any of the aggression nodes where landing an attack at the right time is imperative, unblockable specials, and especially the guaranteed stun off the special one can give you some clutch openings when you need it the most. If you've already placed a Dark Tide on the opponent but lose the fight, your other champs on the team can take advantage, especially with champs who can armor break. buffed up nodes where you're required to have a certain amount of buffs will have Airwalker breezing right on through. Power reserve nodes, whether you're attacker or defender, leave you with reserve power in your power bar. On top of easy power gain from heavy charging, you'll be throwing specials all day. This track requires 3 or more debuffs on the opponent, and having either Darktide debuffs active or the multiple armor breaks with the stun offer plenty of debuffs to be had. Did someone say flow? Now, if you have any theories of where he might shine, go ahead and pop that in the comments section below. Now, let's move on to Synergies. Now, first up, we've got Heralds of Galactus that give Airwalker an indefinite precision buff for the initial fight and the next 2 he participates in. This buff will help you build up Darktide debuffs that much faster with an extra buff in the mix. Nova Corps Veterans gives Airwalker a 30% chance to place an additional Darktide debuff on the opponent when one is placed. And Nova refreshes Fury buffs at 75 Nova charges, even if he's at maximum stacks. This gives you the chance to build up even more damage. The high ground with Green Goblin, Phoenix, or Ebony Maw increase Airwalker's ability power rate while heavy charging by an additional 150%, but reduced by 50% for each persistent power Cosmic Airwalker has, so this helps give you a jump start into power gain until you can reach it on your own. Green Goblin now has double the chance to power drain on laser hits from his special 1. Phoenix heavy attacks also refresh her armor break debuffs while overloaded. And Ebony Maw gains a flat 70% attack bump when the opponent is suffering from Falter or Black Tongue. Now, let's check out some masteries that help Airwalker blow past the competition. Despair is going to be great for Airwalker to be able to mitigate opponent healing abilities due to how many debuffs he can place with Darktides early on and with the armor breaks. Many times you'll be able to just stop healing altogether. Also, the Recovery Mastery will add an extra 15% to his healing after using the Special 3. Thank you for watching this Champion Deep Dive for Airwalker. Are you ready? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you liked the video, and I hope that you did, go ahead and click subscribe, click like, leave a comment, share it with your friends, share it with your mamas. All that stuff is absolutely fantastic, and remember, stay dorky, and I'll catch you on the flip. Oh, Potamus.